I want you to imagine, just for a second, being a 26-year-old artificial intelligence prodigy.
Okay.
You are working at the absolute beating heart of the generative AI revolution, right? Helping build the most transformative tech of our generation.
Yeah, you're right in the middle of it all.
Exactly. You know the underlying architecture. You know exactly where the billions of data points come from.
Yeah.
And then, well, your conscience catches up with the code.
Which is where things usually get complicated.
Right. So you turn whistleblower, you start marshaling evidence for major publications, setting up legal interviews, and then mere days later, you wind up dead.
Wow.
Yeah, dead in a blood-soaked apartment under circumstances that, frankly, just completely defy basic logic.
I mean, when you lay the timeline out like that, it sounds less like a tech story and more like, I don't know, a corporate espionage thriller.
Totally.
But the stakes here are uncomfortably real.
They really are. And before we unpack those stakes, just a quick reminder, if you appreciate these deep investigations, taking a quick second to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell really helps us keep bringing these stories to light.
It makes a huge difference for the deep dive. Yeah.
It does. Also, I was going to give a really brief 15-second update on a different thread we've been pulling, the Martin Stevens versus OpenAI situation.
Right. People have been asking about that.
Yeah, so we are currently in a voluntary quiet period there. The dead man's switch remains unactivated, meaning Martin is safe. There is no lawsuit yet, and please do not take this as implying any backroom settlement progress.
Right. No settlement progress.
Exactly. We are simply in a holding pattern.
Which is good because it allows us to focus entirely on today's deep dive. We are examining an incredibly unsettling interview that recently aired, featuring the mother of Suchir Balaji, a former OpenAI researcher.
Yeah, and we should probably state our ground rules here right from the jump.
Okay.
The source material is an interview hosted by Tucker Carlson, and, it naturally involves some highly charged political and corporate figures.
It does?
So our goal here is to impartially report the claims and the physical evidence presented by the mother in this source. We are absolutely not endorsing any political viewpoints.
Right. We're just looking at the facts she presented.
Exactly. We are looking at this strictly as an investigation into her allegations of a massive cover-up, because the assertions she is making about tech monopolies and the lengths they will go to protect their data pipelines are just staggering.
They are. And to understand why a tech giant might view a single 26-year-old as an existential threat, we kind of have to look at the architect inside the machine.
Right. Who was Suchir, really?
Well, Suchir wasn't just some mid-level manager or someone working in marketing, He possessed a really granular, foundational understanding of the AI's core mechanics.
He was a prodigy.
A true prodigy, yeah. I mean, he had a 4.0 GPA in computer science from UC Berkeley. In 2016, he was the national champion for the Computing Olympiad.
That's just wild. He was operating on a completely different intellectual plane than most people.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he took a gap year before college, right? And got hired by Quora with a $25,000 signing bonus. He was earning a master's level salary at 17 years old.
17. It's almost hard to comprehend.
And while he was at Berkeley, he won a $100,000 award for writing a passenger screening algorithm. And get this, the TSA still uses it today.
See, that specific kind of brilliance, the ability to look at massive chaotic systems and write algorithms to organize them, that is exactly what landed him a crucial role at OpenAI right out of college.
Right.
He became a lead researcher on a project called WebGPT.
Which, for those who don't know, is the prototype that eventually evolved into ChatGPT.
Exactly.
And this is where we really need to look under the hood, because his mother explains that Suchir was directly involved in feeding the, what do they call it, the pre-training data into the AI models.
Yes, the pre-training data.
He was the one writing the scripts that scooped up the internet to train the system.
And that phrase, pre-training data, it sounds highly technical, but it is literally the entire ballgame for generative AI.
How so?
Well, an AI model doesn't actually know anything out of the box, right? It has to be trained to predict the next word in a sentence.
Right. It's just guessing based on patterns.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to do that accurately, it needs to ingest billions upon billions of text inputs. We're talking books, articles, coding forums, news sites, artwork, all of it.
Which is causing a huge problem right now.
A massive problem. The tech industry is currently facing a relentless, multi-billion-dollar wave of copyright lawsuits from authors, news outlets, and artists.
Because they're alleging that their copyrighted life's work was basically vacuumed up to train these models, right? Without permission or compensation.
Precisely.
Okay, I'm trying to visualize his role in this. Like, if we think of a large language model, like a world-class, multi-billion-dollar restaurant,
Okay, I like this.
then the pre-training data is the pantry, right? It's the raw ingredients.
Yes,
And Suchir was essentially the head chef.
that's a great way to put it.
He built the supply chain. He knew exactly what was in that pantry. So if he suddenly realizes that all the exotic ingredients they've been cooking with are actually stolen from the farms next door,
Yeah.
his insider knowledge isn't just an HR problem anymore.
No, it becomes a massive legal liability. Because if you are a company facing existential threats over copyright infringement, you can usually brush off external accusations.
Or
right?
sure, you just hide behind the algorithm.
Exactly. You hide behind the complexity of your black box algorithms. You just claim it's fair use.
Right.
But an internal employee who built the data gathering mechanisms, someone who can point to the exact server logs and say, no, we specifically targeted these copyrighted domains to scrape their data.
Oh, man.
That shatters that defense completely.
But, knowing how the sausage is made is one thing. Plenty of engineers in Silicon Valley know their companies operate in legal gray areas.
Sure, happens all the time.
But deciding to go public, that is the line Suchir crossed. That shifted him from a prized asset to a full-blown whistleblower.
And the mother traces this internal conflict to a very specific turning point.
Which was?
OpenAI's shift from a nonprofit, research-focused model to a cap-for-profit model.
Ah.
That structural change totally altered the ethical math for Suchir. Because scraping human knowledge for open-source academic research is one thing.
Right. It feels for the greater good.
Exactly.
Mm.
But harvesting copyrighted material to build a trillion-dollar profit-making enterprise, that felt deeply unethical to him.
And the timeline accelerates dramatically around November of 2023, right?
Yeah.
After Sam Altman was ousted and then rapidly reinstated as CEO.
Yes.
By August of 2024, Suchir had reached his breaking point and left the company. But he didn't do the standard Silicon Valley thing.
Right. He didn't just quietly update his LinkedIn and join another startup.
No, he went loud.
He immediately went public with his findings. He started publishing research demonstrating how AI models were literally cannibalizing the internet ecosystem.
And he used Stack Overflow as
Yeah.
a primary example, right?
He did. And for you listening, Stack Overflow is a vital platform where coders ask and answer technical questions.
Yeah, it's huge in the coding world.
And it survives entirely on web traffic and ad revenue. So Suchir pointed out that AI models were scraping those answers, and then ChatGPT was serving them directly to users.
So the users never actually click through to Stack Overflow.
Exactly. The site starves for traffic, and the original creators of the solutions get zero credit.
He also published data showing that the answers generated by ChatGPT were frequently unscientific and actually less accurate than the original sites it was scraping from.
Right. He was systematically dismantling the narrative that these models were a pure benefit to society.
And then he escalated it. He went on the record with a Canadian news outlet that was actively suing OpenAI.
Yes, he did.
And then on October 23rd, he was quoted in the New York Times, unequivocally accusing his former employer of stealing and violating copyright law.
And that public accusation, that is what triggers the massive escalation here. Because on November 18th, the New York Times named Suchir a custodian witness.
Okay, stop there, because I'm trying to wrap my head around that specific legal distinction.
Sure.
In my mind, a witness is just someone who saw something happen and gives a testimony, right? But custodian witness implies he was holding the actual receipts. Is that the difference here?
It is a critical difference, actually. A standard witness might just offer an opinion or recount a conversation they heard.
Right.
A custodian witness is an individual legally designated to authenticate specific documents, data sets, or evidence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they are the person who can stand up in a federal court and say, I wrote this code, I maintained this database, and I can verify that this internal document proving we scraped copyrighted data is 100% authentic.
That is massive.
It is. And his mother states he had concrete documents against his former employer. He'd even scheduled a formal legal interview with the Associated Press for December 2nd to escalate his claims even further.
So he was marshaling a mountain of legal evidence.
Yeah.
He was preparing for a massive, very public battle, which honestly makes a sudden violent end to his life so incredibly jarring.
It really does.
We have to look at the severe discrepancies between his forward-looking mindset and the forensic reality of his death.
Because the days leading up to his death paint a picture of someone who is deeply engaged with his future.
Yeah, tell me about the Catalina trip.
Well, he had just returned from a backpacking trip to Catalina Island with his childhood friends. They were celebrating his 26th birthday.
And how was his mood?
Every single friend on that trip described him as upbeat, energized, and genuinely happy.
Right, he was actively laying the groundwork to start a nonprofit too, focusing on neuroscience and machine learning.
Exactly.
And he had a completely normal, happy phone call with his father at 7:15 p.m. on Friday, November 22nd. I read they were making plans to attend a tech conference together in Las Vegas.
They were. But that phone call was the last time his parents ever heard his voice.
Jesus.
Yeah. After days of unreturned texts, growing panic, his parents actually flew to San Francisco.
And they had a hard time getting in.
Yeah. They were stonewalled by apartment dispatchers and security protocols. But his body was finally discovered inside his apartment on Tuesday, November 26th.
And the official response from local authorities here is where the mother's allegations of a cover-up really take root.
Oh, absolutely.
The San Francisco Medical Examiner's office, specifically David Hellman's office, arrived, investigated the scene, and officially ruled it a suicide.
Right.
And they were in the apartment for merely 40 minutes.
40 minutes to process a fatal scene involving a high-profile whistleblower.
It's insane.
The haste was so apparent that the funeral home director actually warned the family.
Wait, the funeral director?
Yes. When the body arrived, the director noted that the physical trauma just did not align with the typical suicide. They strongly urged the parents to commission a second private autopsy.
Which they did. The family hired Dr. Joseph Cohen, an independent forensic pathologist, and his findings just completely shatter that 40-minute medical examiner conclusion.
They really do.
I mean, if you walk into a room and see the evidence Dr. Cohen found and write it off as a suicide in under an hour, it's almost like finding a smashed window in a missing television and just shrugging it off as an indoor hurricane.
That's exactly what it's like. It defies all basic logic and physics.
Break down the gunshot wound for me, because that seems like the biggest red flag.
The mechanics of the gunshot wound are the most glaring impossibility. Dr. Cohen's autopsy revealed the bullet was fired at a 30 to 45 degree downward angle into the top of Suchir's head.
The top of his head.
Yes. And crucially, the bullet missed his brain.
Let's focus on the biomechanics of that for a second.
Yeah.
Because a typical self-inflicted wound, like under the chin or at the temple, has an upward or horizontal trajectory based on the natural movement of a human arm.
Right. It's just how the joints work.
To fire a weapon at a sharp downward angle into your own head, you would have to basically contort your arm above yourself, point the barrel down, and fire.
It is an incredibly strained, unnatural contortion. It just doesn't make sense. Furthermore, if the bullet missed the brain, the victim wouldn't have died instantly.
Right.
They would be moving, bleeding heavily, and potentially struggling. And Dr. Cohen found evidence of a struggle.
Yeah, the blunt force trauma.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was a separate severe blunt force injury on the left side of Suchir's head, which was completely unrelated to the gunshot wound.
And the mother took her own photographs of the apartment, right, because the authorities seemingly refused to process it properly.
Yes, she had to document it herself.
And the photos showed debris scattered in a way that clearly suggests a physical altercation. Like a trash can was violently knocked over, a toothpick he might have been chewing, and an earbud were thrown in opposite directions across the room.
We also have his digital footprint from that night.
Right, what was he doing online?
His last browser history was recorded at 10:10 p.m. And he wasn't researching methods of self-harm, which is, highly common in suicidal ideation.
No.
He was researching neuroscience concepts for his new startup.
Wow.
He also had unopened packages of fresh supplies sitting by the door that he had just ordered. This completely contradicts the psychological profile of someone entering a morose, isolated state of suicidal despair.
It really does. Which brings us to the physical crime scene itself. And this is where we run into the bloody wig and the absolute institutional wall of silence.
Yeah, this part is just harrowing.
Now, if you are listening to this and thinking, this sounds way too much like a Hollywood script to be real, that skepticism is exactly why the mother is pushing so hard for an external FBI investigation.
Exactly.
Because when local authorities refuse to test evidence that looks like it belongs in a movie, the lack of transparency just breeds massive conspiracy.
It does. And the visual evidence the mother describes finding in the apartment is horrific. It wasn't a contained scene.
Blood everywhere, right?
Everywhere. There was blood on the door, blood smeared on the floor, blood in the bathroom sink. This aligns with the autopsy finding that the bullet missed the brain, meaning there was a prolonged period of bleeding and movement throughout the apartment.
But the detail that really just stops you in your tracks is what she found sitting on the floor behind a door.
Oh, yeah.
A clip-in piece of a wig completely covered in blood.
It's just so bizarre.
Suchir was a young guy with very short hair. He did not own or wear a wig. Furthermore, clumps of his actual hair were found separately on the bathroom floor.
Which suggests he had been violently pulled by his hair during a struggle.
Exactly. A bloody wig at a crime scene isn't some subtle, ambiguous clue. It is a glaring indicator of an intruder attempting to conceal their identity.
And standard crime scene protocol dictates that any foreign biological material, especially something as anomalous as a bloody wig piece, should be immediately bagged, tagged, and tested for third-party DNA.
But they didn't.
No, the authorities left it sitting on the floor. The family is actually still paying rent on the apartment, leaving the crime scene exactly as it was found, desperately hoping an agency will eventually come in and test that wig.
That is heartbreaking. The family hired 2 different attorneys to compel the local authorities to act, but they just hit a brick wall.
Complete stonewalling.
The executive director of the medical examiner's office flat out refused to reconsider the suicide ruling, completely ignoring Dr. Cohen's findings on the downward bullet trajectory and the blunt force trauma.
And the corporate response from OpenAI was equally chilling, according to the mother.
What did they do?
Well, she claims they received no outreach, no condolences, no support for weeks.
Nothing.
Nothing. And when Human Resources finally did initiate contact, the mother says it was a highly sterile, calculated push to get the grieving parents onto a Zoom call.
For what?
Solely to handle the administrative paperwork regarding Suchir's unvested stock options.
Are you kidding me? It paints a picture of an institution trying to quickly tie up loose ends rather than showing any human empathy for an employee who died under horrific circumstances.
It really does. And this systemic stonewalling is what drove the mother to a much darker hypothesis.
Right.
She explicitly states she does not believe tech giants would orchestrate a murder over copyright infringement alone.
Because they can just pay those fines.
Exactly. As massive as those lawsuits are, a trillion-dollar company has the capital to litigate or settle them. She suspects Suchir's deep access to the pre-training data led him to stumble onto much more dangerous terrain.
Like what?
She theorizes he may have uncovered the scraping or theft of classified government data or highly sensitive corporate secrets.
Wow. And she is comparing her son's death to the recent highly publicized deaths of Boeing whistleblowers.
She is?
She is actively texting politicians, specifically Silicon Valley Congressman Ro Khanna, pleading for federal intervention. She wants the FBI to take over the case because she fundamentally distrusts the local apparatus in San Francisco.
Which makes sense. I mean, it's a city where tech money essentially dictates the entire economy.
Completely.
And we have to look at the broader environment to understand why these allegations, as extreme as they are, resonate so deeply with people right now. We are looking at the intersection of immense technological power and unfathomable financial stakes. The race to build artificial general intelligence, a system that could actually outthink humans, is viewed as the ultimate winner-take-all scenario.
Yeah, the first one there wins everything.
The companies that achieve this will control the future economy. So when the stakes are measured in the trillions of dollars, and a lone 26-year-old whistleblower threatens the core architecture of that pursuit.
It creates an environment ripe for extreme actions and immediate cover-ups.
Exactly.
So let's pull all of these threads together for you listening. We have a brilliant young prodigy who helped build the underlying data architecture for a world-changing AI tool.
Yeah.
He realizes the system is fueled by the unethical harvesting of human knowledge. He steps up to become a custodian witness, preparing to hand over authenticating documents to major publications.
Right.
And days later, he is found dead in an apartment covered in blood, with a bullet fired at an impossible downward angle, blunt force trauma to his skull, and a bloody wig left at the scene.
And facing all of this is a grieving family fighting an institutional system, local police, medical examiners, corporate HR that processed the scene in 40 minutes and refused to test the most glaring pieces of physical evidence.
It is a devastating story, and one that demands rigorous, transparent scrutiny. If you found this deep dive illuminating, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with anyone who cares about corporate accountability and the protection of whistleblowers.
Getting this information out of the shadows is really the only way to force these conversations into the light.
It is.
Because transparency is the only antidote to an environment where Immense power operates in a black box.
Well said. I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day. We spend an enormous amount of time and anxiety debating the future of artificial intelligence.
We do.
We worry about the machine. We debate whether the AI will eventually become sentient, break its programming, and turn on humanity.
Right. The classic sci-fi fear.
Exactly. But if the allegations in this case hold any truth at all, if the organizations controlling these algorithms are potentially willing to silence their own human creators to protect their data pipelines and their market dominance, we might be looking in the wrong direction. Is the real existential threat the machine itself? Or is it the humans holding the keys?